pouring from an empty cup.
Welcome to the Men of Conviction podcast.
Welcome to the Men of Conviction podcast. We are your hosts, Alex and Kordell, and we are pumped to have you here today.
Yes, we are. Today, we're going to dive into pouring from an empty cup. You know, you're often told that in life that you got to take care of yourself, numero uno, before you can help anyone else. But today, we're going to share about pouring from an empty cup, because sometimes you have to.
Sometimes you got to. Sometimes there's no other choice. Can't pour from an empty cup. Well, sometimes you got to pour from an empty cup. That's just how it goes.
Why, you ask? Why would you have to pour from an empty cup?
Because there's things that are more important than yourself in this life.
So what?
I actually got a lot of flack for this on Twitter one day. I posted that the priority goes God, wife, kids, self. And I got a lot of flack. They were like,
what was the flack about?
It was like, well, you can't, if you put yourself at the bottom, you can't serve the people in front of you. And so here's what the episode's about. Sometimes you're at the bottom. Not sometimes. You are at the bottom of that list. The list could be bigger, it could be more comprehensive. But this list, God, wife, kids, self. Sometimes everything works. Sometimes you can go to the gym. You can go on your walk. You can take the kids to school. You can talk to your wife. You guys can do your budget meeting. Sometimes everything works perfectly. You have time in the day for all the things you need to get done. And everything got done, and everybody was where they needed to be, and all the kids got fed, and you and your wife got to hug for 7 seconds and kiss for 12 seconds, whatever it is, right? You got to do it all. Those days are great. And you might think, well, I put myself first because I went to the gym. No, you didn't put anybody first. Everything worked. It was all balanced.
It's a good day.
It's a great day.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's conflict. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you're walking out of the house for the gym and your wife's like, hey, I'm really sick. I need to go back to bed and I need you to take care of the kids. So what are you going to do?
Say, I got to go to the gym, honey. Got to work on these guns.
Got it. I got 2 tickets to the gun show and they're non-refundable.
So I got to get to, no, you got to stop right there and say, well, my kids need me. My wife needs me. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's where the priority shifts. That's where you got to go back to the order of saying what's most important.
The order comes in when there's a conflict, when there isn't time for all of it. When you're sitting in a meeting and you get a call from the school that your kid's throwing up. What are you going to do?
Hey, man, can y'all clean it up? No, you got to stop and go take care of your kid. A lot of you guys probably are saying, well, you just let them wait for a little while.
There's performance reviews coming up, right?
I'm closing a big deal.
Another sale to make.
And that's a problem with our society in general sometimes, that we put so many of these other things in front of our family. You know, we think like, well, they can wait a little bit longer. You know, well, we'll be all right. And at the end of the day, it's like, you know, what if they're not all right? What if you did put that sales call in front of your wife or your children? You got to make sure that you got your priorities in line and that you can check yourself when it's time to check yourself, and know that, my wife's going to labor, I'm leaving, and go, instead of, she's probably all right, because you're going to miss those moments that are more important than closing that big deal. I don't care how big it is.
We were in the hospital for 7 hours last time. I'm sure I got a little time.
It takes a while to have a kid.
It takes a while. Is the doctor even there yet?
But you're there to support your wife through the whole ordeal. That's the point there. It's just that making sure that she knows how important that this moment is in your lives together, or whatever it may be. Making sure that she knows that she's important, and your kids are important whenever she's sick and not feeling well in bed when you head out to the gym.
Yeah, and there's balance in all of these things, right? If you're on a work trip and you're an 8-hour flight away and your wife's like, hey, I got a bit of a head cold, right? That's for you guys to have your communication line where, like, hey, this doesn't require me to cancel and change and fly back to come home because, like, your head hurts, right? It's all about balance. It's about figuring out where the priorities lie. And that's why communication is so important, because you guys have to be on the same page about what's needed, what needs to be done, what still is out there, what was done, all these things. You got to have communication line. But so empty cup, where does this come in, right? So just because there's a conflict doesn't mean you have an empty cup, right? You just had a busy day. You had to go to the gym in the evening instead of in the morning, or you went on a walk at lunchtime instead of working out in the afternoon, whatever it is. You just had to make an adjustment. But sometimes there's these times where it just gets extended and you just are done. You're just drained. My example, when I had COVID, I guess a year ago or a year and a half, whatever it was, we still had 3 kids that needed to be fed.
Wait, you survived? You had COVID?
I did, luckily.
Oh.
I got all the checklists for calling it a day, but I made it.
Good for you.
I'm too strong for that virus. Can't hold me down. But there's things like that where you have an extreme where you are just you're done. You are exhausted. You just want to go to bed and you just want to be over. You can't, because you got God, wife, and kids in front of you, and so if they need something,
they need to eat.
They need to eat. They need to be put to bed. They need to be bathed. Your wife needs whatever she needs. All kinds of stuff, right? All these things that need to be done. You just got to do them. And the balance comes in is like there are these times where you have to pour from an empty cup. You're just going to be drained and worn out, and you still got to do something.
And the key is knowing that that's normal, and knowing that when you're pouring from that empty cup, that is not the excuse to kind of fly off the handle, get angry, get upset, take out all your frustrations on your wife, your kids. You don't take them out there. What you do is you just serve them and understand that empty cup service, man, that's just part of life. You know, like everything's not going to be destined to be just like you designed it out to be. But those inconveniences or those schedule interruptions or those conflicts are part of our journey in life. And so remember that you can still pour from an empty cup with joy if you focus on your foundation first. Your foundation in God.
You can always find joy. Joy and happiness are not the same thing.
Absolutely not.
You can have moments of suffering or misery or just overwhelmedness and still look for the joy in that moment. You don't have to be having a great day. You don't have to be winning the lotto to find joy. Sometimes it's going to suck, but you got to find the joy in it. And so the flip side of this too, right? In those moments where everything is working, everything is balanced, you have to make sure you are taking care of yourself, not at the expense of everybody else, but when everything is straightened away, you know what the schedule is, you know what all the things need to be done, like make sure you are taking care of yourself, because there's extremes to this, right? You go the extreme of, well, I have to go to the gym, even if my wife is 6, it's on the calendar. I have it on the calendar at 5 a.m. I got to go. Doesn't matter what else is going on. Well, that's too far that way. But you go the other route, and I was guilty of this for a long time. It's like, well, I can't exercise. I can't go to the gym. I can't do these things because I'm just so busy with being married, having a job, having kids. I'm just so busy. There's no time for that. And that's the other extreme. And neither of those is healthy
or true.
It's
a made up reality that keeps us stuck.
So you have to find the balance in there. There's a middle ground.
There's a ground that makes your life sing. And so make sure that you're pouring when you get an opportunity and scheduling the time to get your foundation and your life right with God. Make sure that you're scheduling time to spend quality time with your wife, take care of your kids, teach them the things you want to teach them, and make sure you take time for yourself. So that way you can fill yourself up, make sure that you're taking care of your mental health, make sure that you're taking care of your physical health. Make sure you're taking care of those priority things so that way you can show up even whenever it's not convenient for your schedule. You want to be able to show up then, find joy in the moment. Find joy in the moment where, you know, your kid has an accident, spills something, has an accident at night or something like that. Find joy that you're there to take care of it for them. Don't let that be an opportunity to be like, man, I was supposed to be sleeping at 4 a.m. I didn't want my kid to throw up at night, so now I'm mad at my kid. It's an opportunity for you to be there and comfort them and console them. And I know you might think, well, man, who would go and chastise their kid for being sick in the morning? I mean, there's probably somebody out there.
Oh, there's definitely somebody out there.
For sure.
It just gets, I remember the 3 a.m. wake ups with the crying newborn, and sometimes you're just like, why can't you just sleep? But you gotta bring yourself together, center on yourself, and be like, hey, I get the joy of holding my baby, my kid. I get the joy of being able to help my child. I get the joy of being the one that my kid knows is going to show up for them every time.
And it may not be easy for you at first, and maybe it might take a little while, but if you can just let that sink in for a minute of, you get to be the one to take care of your kid, not, oh, I have to, and it's a burden. So think about that. Show up. Pour from that empty cup when it's needed.
You don't get to control the circumstances that are gonna put demand on you and drain you and pour that cup out. But I think that in those moments where you can find balance, I think you have an opportunity to increase the capacity of your cup, right? The more your physical fitness, your mental fitness, your psychology, your marriage, communication, the more all those things are built up, the more capacity you have to handle these demands that are put on you. And ideally, you create less an opportunity for you to be drained. But regardless, when you're drained, you still got to show up, whether you like it or not.
That's right, man. So add those inputs and those values in to make your cup a little bit larger, can contain a little bit more joy, a little bit more happiness, fulfillment in life, living life with purpose and intention. And that way you are there whenever you're needed. We want you to be.
Hey, if you like the podcast, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And we are pumped to have you along our journey here as we spread a message of living life with purpose and intention for all the men in the world.
Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. We appreciate those too. And we try to interact with some of those as well. We are the Men of Conviction podcast.
We'll catch y'all next time.
We out.